Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for episode 3 of Arb Culture, the live panel discussion for Arb businesses brought to you from Forced in partnership with the Arb Cultural Association. This week's discussion is all about people, one of the biggest assets your business has, and we have a panel of experts for you on the topic of recruitment, training, and retaining great people. Now, don't forget, we would love for you to be involved, so please send your questions into us during the session and we will do our very best to get them answered live. Please enjoy.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Keith, and welcome to episode 3 of the Arb Culture live panel discussion. We've got an excellent conversation here for you tonight, so we're going to move straight into it. I'm Doug Ginn from Force Woodchippers, and I'm joined again by an excellent panel, excellent and very broad panel, I will say, with experts from the industry to talk to us on the subject of people. So without further ado, I'm going to move to the panel. The panel are going to introduce themselves one by one. We're going to start with you, please, Kirsty.
Hi, my name is Kirsty McNichol. I am the training manager for Highline, a large Arb company, currently employing about 275 people. I've been at Highline for around 14 years. I've done a variety of roles, including HR manager. My role at the moment also includes running Highline Training, which is the independent training section of Highline.
Excellent, that's good. Thank you, Kirsty. And Nick?
Hi, I'm Nick Potts. I run the jobs board Arb Jobs. I worked as a contractor, and in 1998 we set up Arb Jobs as an industry-specific jobs board. The site's now got 150,000 visitors every year and about 2,500 registered job seekers on our database. So it's pretty busy. Come from a very slow start, but it's really picked up as technology's sort of grown.
Excellent, thank you, Nick. And Steve?
Hi, I'm Steve Bones of Wilby Tree Surgeons Limited in Northampton. I'm their technical compliance manager. I've been with the company for 6 years now. We have 25 staff, 18 of which are operational, and I look after the health and safety of the HR and marketing side of the business. Also dabble in the quotes and sort of anything technical within the office.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Steve. Richard?
Hi, my name is Richard Trippett. I'm Division Manager for Bartlett Tree Experts for the UK and Ireland. We have 11 offices around the UK, 1 office in Dublin. We've got about 124 employees at the moment, 82 of which are in production. And we specialise in tree care. 75% of our business is pruning trees, cutting trees, planting trees. 25% of our business is doing the plant healthcare side of things, pest and disease management, soil management. We've got the backing of a research facility, which is funded by Bartlett. Robert Bartlett over from the USA helps us fund the research department at Reading University. They help providing the industry as well as ourselves with great services and products and treatments for trees.
Excellent, that's good. And finally, Andrea?
Hi, I'm Andrea Richardson. I'm an HR director working for a company called People Puzzles, and we supply part-time HR directors into the SME market space. We've got about 60 people directors that cover the whole of the country.
Excellent, that's good. Well, thank you very much to the panel for introducing themselves. I know it's going to be a great conversation tonight. We're going to kick off with a question which I think probably will be prevalent in a lot of contractors' minds out there. I'm going to fire this one at you, Richard, initially. It seems to be a common challenge that arborists are becoming increasingly hard to find in terms of employment. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think everybody's found that in the past 10 years. I've been back working in the UK for the past 12 years, and ever since we got back, we've had problems trying to fill those spaces and those seats on tree trucks. I think there's no magic answer. The industry's grown quite a considerable amount in the past 20 years, 25 years since I've been in the industry. And I think we are all looking for the great arborist, that great tree surgeon who can do everything, turns up on time. But unfortunately for us, they're not all out there. So I think our biggest challenge is actually encouraging people to come into the industry. First thing we have to do is talk about the industry itself. I don't think we get into the right audience early enough to realize that actually arboriculture is an actual profession rather than just being a tree surgeon. There's a whole profession and a whole career progression to get through. And I think we need to start kind of looking beyond our industry itself to talk about what we do and how we do it. That goes from colleges, schools. We should be starting, I'm sure, 14, 15, talking to groups of young people who are maybe not going to be going down the academic route, but want to be working outside. But there's a great variety of work within the industry out there. If we can get those people switched on early on, they've got a career path to get through to a certain stage.
That's excellent. Kirsty, you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, just agree with Richard on that, really. We do quite a lot of schools talks, and one of the things we find when we go into schools is that actually most of the kids don't actually know there is a career out there in trees. They're not made aware of that at a young age, and they don't realise that the options that are available, so not just becoming a tree surgeon, but obviously all the other options that you could do within either the land-based sector or within kind of trees in itself. So I think definitely advising people at a much younger age that there are career opportunities available, I think is needed, and to raise the profile of the industry as a whole, really. That's
interesting. What are your thoughts on Nick about that?
Yeah, I think I agree with Kirsty. The profile of the industry is quite poor. I think if you go to Europe, the Europeans view arboriculture and arboricultural workers at a much higher status than we see in the UK here. People do aspire to work for good careers, have good careers, and they're not seeing that potential for development within the industry. The low entry level of the industry, to a certain extent, dissipates the amount of companies out there. So you've got a really wide spectrum of businesses, everything from Richard's sort of Bartlett Tree Services to the little one-man bands and the freelancers. And it's I think it's like sort of professionalism of the industry is what we need to polish up and get sorted, and then we'll find that salaries will go up, rates will go up, and the profession will be seen as a much better profession. And unfortunately, it does mean that the little one-man bands may disappear, but they'll be amalgamated into larger businesses.
That's a really interesting point. How about you, Steve? What do you think on that topic?
Yeah, exactly the same as the others. It's been a real challenge for us to find anyone, really. We're taking on students from the local agricultural college who are wanting to do their work experience. Very hit and miss with the quality of them. The quality of the teaching at that college, is up and down. So yeah, it's a real challenge. Ex-army people have been a great asset to us. They've looked, we've found quite a few of those coming in. We also haven't got the tree surgery background. They've got a lot of transferable skills. So yeah, we've enjoyed the ones of those that we've recruited.
That's brilliant. Go on, Richard.
Yeah, I mean, we found the same thing with kind of retraining of things. One of the things that we're always talking about, there are plenty of good arborists out there. They just don't know it yet. I think we've just got to be finding them and letting them know.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, one of the things I found going around talking to the colleges was the lack of practical experience they're getting, certainly with the tree climbing aspect. And the kids are just not understanding that it's not just competence on a day for a certificate, it's actually being experienced enough to climb around a tree safely and commercially viably, because that's what everybody wants. Now, I've seen students at college who've gone out and they've been working together and training over weekends and any downtime, getting up trees, trying stuff, and those that just do the 1 hour a week that the college requires, and the difference is amazing. I've seen students come out and come and beat people in the competitions, the tree climbing competitions, beat experienced arborists because they've just been practicing what they're doing. And it's surprising, you sort of ask a college full of students how many climbed last week on their own free time. Just no hands going up. If they're not willing to put the effort in, we're not getting the quality of climbers coming out the other end. And the colleges need to reiterate that to them, You know, I don't get companies saying, you know, we're quite happy to take somebody who's tree hugging the tree and he's scared to climb out on a limb. You know, that's exactly what we want. They're not asking for that. They're wanting people who are commercially viable.
That's really interesting. That's good. Andrew, have you got any comments on this topic? I know you're not a tree surgeon as such.
No, I think I would echo things around linking in with colleges and schools and really just educating people around the industry and the experience that's needed, and the professionalism as well, so that it becomes a more an industry that really that people want to get into. So I think the panel have already covered the points
Yeah,
that
that's
I've
good.
wanted to raise.
Excellent. That's really good. Kirsty, were you going to say something else there, or you?
I was just going to agree with Nick, to be honest, about kind of the people coming out of colleges. It's quite a mixed bag, I think, and you do want someone who wants, as a climber, who wants to climb all the time, wants to practice, wants to put the effort in. We have set up our own training program just for that very reason. So we will take people from scratch with no qualifications, but we want people who want to be in the industry, want to learn about trees and want to climb trees. So it's not good enough really to go along, get your qualification and thinks that's it really.
That's really interesting. So that touches on the bringing people in with the right attitude and the right culture, and we're going to touch on that a bit later on in this conversation. So that's really good. The next question I had down here was a question around the challenge, which when we hear quite a bit in talking to customers, of the challenge of bringing people in, training them up, putting the time, putting the money into them, and then they're not with you for too long and they move on somewhere else. And that seems to be another common challenge in the industry. What are your thoughts about that one, Kirsty? Did you get that challenge?
Yeah, it's frustrating all the time, really. I think although it is frustrating and it's disappointing if you bring someone in and train them up, I still think there's massive value in that. So I think you have to kind of take the rough with the smooth. And I think even though when you've trained someone up and then they leave to either set up on their own or go to another business, as I say, it's frustrating and disappointing. I still don't think that should stop companies doing that. I think some of the people we've trained up from scratch are some of our best employees. We as a company have a 2-year bonding now on training. So before even taking someone on, we would explain that any training they do with us needs to be paid back if they leave within a certain amount of time. It's not an ideal situation, but at least people know up front that they're kind of committed to a certain amount of time. And if they don't want to commit to that, then they probably don't join us. So yeah, an ongoing problem, I think, for most companies.
Interesting. Go on, Richard, you had a comment on that?
Yeah, I think so. I've spoken a lot about this. We've found this in most of my industry kind of colleagues and people I know. I've always got the same problem. And somebody once said to me, I think actually Robert Bartlett said to me, why should you not be willing to invest your time and effort into somebody to train them to go out and spread the good word about, one, hopefully the company, but about the industry as well. If we can train somebody up for a certain amount of time, they leave us with some good qualifications and a good experience of working for us, they can be one of our best recruiters. So it's a double-edged sword, really, because yes, you don't want to waste your time and effort putting that in, but if we can turn somebody out and they give us a couple of years, they've had a good experience of working for us, we've given them the professionalism of what we're trying to achieve. We're not perfect, but we try to do as best as we can. And if they leave, they're going to say they had a good experience working for us, they got some training. And it's not using us as a training kind of program, but it's using them to get some experience, get some work. And if we can put people out who are going to be more professional, they're going to be charging the right amount of money, they're going to go out there and they're going to be similar to the so I think there's benefits in it. And I understand Kirsty is trying to get the money back as well. It's something we've looked into. But we try and set that training program up when somebody comes on board. So they know in the first year, they may get some amount of training, not necessarily just what we want, but potentially what they want. So we have our needs as managers. We have needs for a certain qualification, certification, but there's also other things that we can help train and kind of get them to be a little bit more professional. I mean, that's the whole thing about professionalizing the industry.
That's good. Nick, you had a comment on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I did a talk a couple of years ago to a student conference and I did some research on that. And there was a study done in America about employees and what they were wanting out of the job. And there was a big percentage, I can't remember the exact percentage, but it was quite staggering. Money was not the main motivator. It was being happy at work was the main motivator for people staying. And I think, I'm not talking about Kirsty and Richard's businesses here, but there's a lot of smaller businesses are maybe not considering the thoughts and care of the staff. And so they're moving on very quickly. And that we're seeing a very transient group of employees moving around the country. It's great for me because obviously we run a lot of recruitment, but for my companies as well, I do feel for them. And you know, if they could just look sometimes maybe at the systems they're doing and consider this communication with the staff, they'll find they get a lot lower turnover in staff potentially. We're still going to lose people. You know, I've lost staff myself that I wanted to retain. You know, they're going to move on. They want to go out and do their own thing. It's going to happen. But you know, there are losses that can be avoided.
Interesting. Do you share the same challenges, Steve?
Absolutely, yeah, and I agree with what everyone else has said. I think it's really highlighting a change in society over the last 20 years. People are a lot more fluid, they're moving around, they're not staying in one place. Credit is a lot easier to get. It sounds daft, but you know, when I started 20 years ago, be driving around in a £500 banger. Today, they're driving around in really nice cars. And if a company down the road wants to try and poach the staff, you know, they're going to offer a little bit more money. It's attractive to some people. So there's, you know, lots of elements to this. But yeah, society, I think, as a whole has changed, and people aren't as committed to companies. They're not seeing a job for life anymore. So they will move on a lot easier. Interesting.
It kind of ties in with it. What's your thoughts on that, Andrea, before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a whole mixture of that, and I think we've touched into, you know, some of the why people might stay as well. And I think there is a big piece around how you're managed and having that conversation with people and understanding what their aspirations are. So I think, as Richard was saying, are there other aspects that you can actually train them on, not just train them in the particular skills they need, but other things? You know, are there other areas that they could receive that training on to open up a career path for them, you know, so that increases their job satisfaction, which means that they might be more likely to stay with you. But to take on Steve's point, I think people are a bit more transient than they used to be as well. So
Richard, sorry, Andrew.
Yeah, Andrea really kind of hit on something there that we've been trying to do, and it's about communicating with your staff. I think that's the bottom line. If you've not got that regular communication with your employees about what they're looking for, what they see in work, and that's backwards and forwards. We try and do that on a more regular basis and just your once a year review. You mentioned review to an employee, first thing I think of, what's my pay rise? That's the first thing. So we're trying to look at things to see what their skills are like, how we touch on that maybe once a quarter. We don't do it as well as I'd like to do, but it's certainly something to open that communication and that honest, open communication. I'd like to see you at this level in the next few months, and if you get to that level, then there's going to be some pay increase to go with it. But all about communicating with your staff is the major thing, backwards and forwards. And that's my challenge in my position at the moment, is training my managers to be able to manage staff. We were all managed by managers who were never taught how to manage, and it was just crack on and get on and do it. And times have changed, and that's my challenge and a big part of my job. And we've made a huge amount of progress, and it's just switching your mentality and such. Here's your job, just go do it, and you should be glad you've got a job. And we're not in that position anymore. We've not been in that position for a long time. We've got to stop and be quiet and shut up now and again and listen to your staff and listen to what they're looking for.
That's good. Andrew, you had a comment on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, there is a saying, isn't there, that people join a company and they leave a bad manager. So I think that is so true. And actually not be afraid to have that conversation with people as well. You might not always like what they have to say, but at least if they're saying it to you, you have a chance to do something about it and really understand their perspective.
Interesting. Go on. Sorry, Steve, you were going to say something there.
Just to, again, echo Richard, we're tree surgeons. Our background's cutting trees, not managing people. And I think there's a lack of training that I've seen anyway for good people management, unless you're going out to external providers. So I think the industry could do more to sort of promote good management, good HR. Absolutely.
Let's go on, Nick.
Steve's just hit it on the head. Exactly what I was going to say. There's, I know I was talking to Kirsty before we got online tonight. She's saying that she's within the company. They've instigated sort of leadership training, and I'd like to see more of that. There, you know, there's a recognised training section within the arboricultural industry, because you know it is working in teams. It's working with guys and girls, you know, as teams on a regular basis. Managing people. We're not taught to manage people. We're taught to manage trees. And I think that is really important for that sort of move on, and it will stay with you whatever career you go into. But being able to manage people carefully is really important.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's fantastic. So it kind of ties in with the next point I was going to bring up. So kind of what's the secret to keeping hold of good people? So we guess we kind of touched on some of that. But Steve, I know from working with you guys for a long time that there's familiar faces whenever I come or have been in the past. How do you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, there's two sort of key areas. That's first of all, whenever we employ anybody, we're absolutely clear from the outset. We're looking for staff who want to come in and absorb the ethos of the company. We do high quality work. We work to British standards and above. We're doing everything the best that we can. It's got to be about good customer service. So there's an expectation from the outset that they're going to come in, they're going to work hard, and they're going to work to how we want. And secondly to that, we then need to understand what the staff want, and we touched on this earlier. If you know what's motivating the staff, if it's pay, if it's training, if they just want to progress through the company, get more knowledge, if you can understand what they're after, and we can tally the two together through communication, as we said before, those two for me are core to it, to developing our staff, hopefully keeping them happy.
That's brilliant. Well, how about you, Kirsty? How'd you go with that one? You've got a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it gets more difficult as you get more people. I think communication is the key. I would have said we've probably not been the best at that in the past, and it's something we're really trying to work on. As you get bigger as an organisation, it's much harder. I think it's really important just to see each member of staff as an individual. You know, each person may want something different from their job. Some people want to go up the ladder, become a manager. Other people are quite happy to stay as a climber or a groundie. To actually understand those individuals' personalities so you can put them in teams that they thrive in, with people that will help bring them on. And I think kind of we've probably, as I say, tried to concentrate more on making our teams kind of be with a manager. So the manager has 10 people, so he can understand those teams and get the best out of them. But as you get bigger as a company, it's harder to do that. And geographically, it's harder. We now cover kind of Bristol to Penzance across to London. So actually knowing all of those people gets harder. But I think it's really important to maintain that communication with each of them and make sure that there's open communication, that they can come to you as much as you go to them.
That's really good. Andrew, you've got a lot of experience in managing a lot of people. What do you say about that question?
Yeah, I think having that dialogue with people is really important, and the leadership and management training is key. But I think building trust with your teams is really important, really important. So if they feel that they can come to you with a problem, or that you're acting with integrity at all times and acting within your company ethos, I think that is so powerful. So I think trust within the team is absolutely key.
Interesting. That's good. Richard, what are your thoughts on that? Keeping over the good ones.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what everybody said. I think the big thing is making those employees feel valued, keeping the communication going to them, setting them recognizable goals that they can get to, and rewarding them for doing the good job that they do at the best of times. And it's that on it. It's I think one of the things that we've all rushed into in the past is hiring the first person who came in because you're so desperate for somebody to go into work. But just spending a little bit of time during the interview process talking about what their needs and whether they're going to be a good fit in you in the first place can save a lot of problems. And we've all fallen into that trap where we desperately need to get somebody, we hire the wrong person, and we try to then change them and listen to what they want, and it's never going to work for anybody. So it's investing in that person, investing in their future, giving them an aim, something to get to, listening to what they want to get to. Some people don't want to progress any further. They're happy being a groundie, they're happy being the tree climber, but they don't want to be a crew leader. So it's about listening to them. We just spent the last year before the whole COVID thing came in, we spent a lot of time as a company worldwide is actually getting all the managers, all the crews, everybody in the offices sat down around a table talking about the challenges we have as an industry and what we're going forward. So we're actually in the process, or we were in the process of looking and listening to that and looking at our future goals as a business and as a company, where they want to see that. So it's listening to the people at the forefront of things. So that communication is so essential.
That's interesting. Go on, Kirsty, you had a comment there.
Yeah, just to agree with Richard on, I think it's really important that however in need of staff you are, that you just don't take anyone on. I think we've all made that mistake. Certainly, you know, we have in our company where it's just actually we just need staff, and I think that will always come back to bite you. I think it's really important to go through a good recruitment process. You know, if you can do a climate assessment with them and stuff like that, and actually make sure you've got the right people for the job. You're better off having a few less and the right ones than loads of people that actually aren't right for your company or their jobs.
Go on, Steve.
Yeah, as I said before, we offer a 1 week trial to everyone who wants to work for Wilby Tree. It works both ways. They can learn about the company if they're happy with what we're expecting of them, and we get to assess them. We put them out with different teams, give them different challenges, find out how they operate under different circumstances and different challenges. We've employed people in the past straight after the interview, and they've lasted a couple of days, and it's quite clear they're the wrong person. So that week's trial, obviously paid. We always pay fairly, but it just makes sure that both parties are happy. And yeah, it's been quite a successful approach that we've taken.
That's interesting. That's really good. So come on to the next one then, Nick. I'm going to point this your direction, because how do we go about finding these good people in the first place, and how do we attract them to our businesses?
I think the days of being able to just put an ad up, you know, climber wanted, are gone. Certainly with the short skilled staff at the moment, if that's what you're looking for, you've not only got to get out there and push the job, like spoon feed the job right to them via their phones or the internet, but you've also got to really sell why they should work for you. You know, just because you're offering a salary each week is not enough. You know, they're looking for ongoing training, ongoing commitment, safety, being appreciated. You know, your company ethos, it all counts towards it. And you know, we really encourage our clients to really push the benefits of working for them over somebody else. And you know, but you still find myself having to lead some companies to do a better job of selling why a member of staff should work for them rather than a competitor. And we have a lot of jobs on the site, so you know, when somebody's trawling through, they're a click away from the next advert that may be better, that may offer them better opportunities, better benefits. So it's really important someone does a good job, and they may need to look at their own systems before they promote the position, because you know, if they're not at a level playing field with their competitors, then they need to review that, because you're not going to get staff. You know, you're not going to get staff if all you're offering is just you know, the salary.
Interesting. Go on, Richard.
Yeah, I'm with Nick on everything he said. It's working for a company like ourselves, which is a bigger company, is not necessarily the right thing for everybody. There's some people looking for a paycheck at the end of every week, but we're trying to offer something else. We're trying to offer that career progression all the way through. It's a difficult thing to get someone working for us. Is not going to be for everybody, but I think working with our industry partners, whether that's other arboricultural businesses or the green industry businesses, we get a lot of referrals for people saying, come and try out working for Bartlett for a while. I think you might like it working there. So it's just having that, a little bit of the reputation, a little bit of some of the nuances of the business that we do with the plant healthcare side of things. Some of our best recruiting assets is Dr. Percival over the labs at Reading. If anybody's seen Glenn talk about trees and arboriculture, and you can't get enthused by listening to him. So he's one of our great assets to be able to recruit. So somebody's got that enthusiasm, and he's been at the forefront of the kind of research and doing things that we've done for a long time. So he's one of the best assets we've got. And I think the other thing is the guys we've got working for us and girls we've got working for us, they're one of the best things. So we pay them to recruit people. If they stay for a while, they get some money, they get retention, recruitment bonus. Because ultimately, it's the crews out there working, that doing the recruitment and doing the interview process. As Steve says, we get people in for a trial period, and it's not me who's going to be hiring somebody because I like the way the guy's talking. They're going to be working with the teams we've got working all together, so they've got to fit in nicely with the people we've got, have that right attitude. We can help to train them to a certain point. But I think it is our best assets, the reputation I think we have of a professional company, and the people we've got working for us. So they're the best recruitment tools that we have.
Brilliant. Go on, Steve.
I was going to pick up on something Nick mentioned, and that's marketing ourselves, whether that be the business or, why work for us. And again, it comes back to most of us are not from an academic background. We're very practical people. We're not very good at selling ourselves. And it's really difficult for a small company to invest in advertising and marketing. So, if there's more support in the industry for how to market ourselves and present to, why work for us, then, that's sort of approach that I would like to see.
Interesting. How about you, Kirsty? How do you find your people?
Kind of a combination, really. Same as Richard said, we give a staff incentive to kind of bring people on, and then they get kind of another bonus if people stay with us. And I think quite a lot of the time it will be people ringing up because they've seen the people out working, and I think they are, our greatest asset. And if they're out there working professionally, if the vans are clean, if they're polite to customers, all of those things, that sells your company. And then people inquire about coming to join you. We use Arb Jobs, we use social media, we do quite a few. Personally, kind of within the training team, we do quite a lot of recruitment fairs at military events. So just tackling it from all different ways. I think it's not so simple as just putting a job advert out there anymore, as Nick said. So I think you just really sell the company and raise your company's profile. I think having your name out there so people know that companies exist is a good first step, really.
Good. Go on, Andrea.
I guess one other point is just going back to something we talked around earlier, is also this apprenticeship route. So start thinking ahead about what you might need and bringing in apprentices and having those links with colleges and schools. So you might not have a current vacancy, but you can kind of go, every year I might, if I can, budgets are there, bring in a couple of apprentices and start bringing them through as well. So you've got that talent kind of rising up through. So I think that's another way as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Go on, Nick, got a point there.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely applaud any company that's bringing in apprentices into the industry. And, again, I've said before, we don't get companies that are saying, oh, we want somebody off the street with no training. But what we offer is actually, I'm quite happy to do free apprentice adverts on the site, because it's bringing staff into the industry, it's getting things going. And if these companies are willing to invest the time and the effort into training sort of young people off the street and into the industry, then that's got to be a good thing, and they need rewarding for that. So I'm quite happy, we offer that as a service, is to that entry level to the business.
That's good. So everyone watching, talk to Nick, get you some FOC apprentice up online. That's good. That's good. So moving on to the next point, we touched on it a bit earlier on about training. I'm going to come to you for this one, Kirsty. We talked about also the importance of people coming in with the right attitude, but what training, if people are looking to come into the industry, they're fresh, they're coming into the industry, what do they need? What are the basics? Where do they start?
I think the first thing is that they research their training provider. There are good and not so good training providers out there. It's important that training isn't cheap for an individual or companies. So I think you need to research and get word of mouth recommendations, find out what the course content is that you're going to be studying. Is it up to date? Some of the people coming through that we see have got a climbing qualification, but frankly, they haven't really been taught the most, up-to-date methods of climbing, and then we reteach them. So I think it's research what's included on your course. Is equipment included? You need to get value for money. Most people will either need to take time off work to attend training, they're paying for it themselves. So they need to make sure that they're getting their money's worth, basically. Most companies, I think, would welcome people coming with their basic chainsaw tickets, so cross-cut maintenance, felling, climbing aerial rescue, and aerial chainsaw use. If you go to employers with those qualifications, you will stand more of a chance of getting a job than if you've come with nothing. First aid, again, if you go to a company with first aid, you can be put out from day one. They don't have to train you. So any money you can save an employer potentially will help you in your recruitment. And I think it's important not to jump ahead and do the more advanced courses like rigging. I think you need a few years experience. Spending money on those courses before you've got any experience, I think would be a waste. A lot of companies wouldn't give you a rigging job if you started as a fresh person. So wait for a couple of years. Either your employer might put you through that training, or you can save up, and then when you're ready for courses, then do those. So I think it's picking your courses wisely, really.
That's good. What do you look for on a CV, Steve, when you're recruiting people? What are the basics?
Any skills, as Kirsty said, that they can bring. If they've got chainsaw, chipper tickets, that's fantastic. Also towing, HGV, any transferable skills, really. We've had a couple of people who have worked at height in other industries, and they've come in. Again, they haven't got their climbing tickets, but they're used to working at height, and they can adapt quite quickly. So it's anything that's transferable, because you haven't got to take anything that comes along, but sometimes it feels that way. And you're just grateful to have a CV on the desk some days. So anything that they can do, some great sort of short courses, sort of 6-week courses where they can get the tickets. As Kirsty said, there's some good providers out there that offer that. So if they can invest in that, in those tickets, they're certainly going to be a lot more attractive to us. But it doesn't mean just because you haven't got a chainsaw ticket or a climbing ticket doesn't stop you being looked at.
No, okay. Increases your chances. That's good. What about you, Richard? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I think as an industry, we're a ticket-led industry. To get somebody to come in to be able to be productive on the first few days of being at work, we're looking for those tickets, and it'd be ideal if everybody had those. And I think, as Kirsty touched on earlier on, getting those tickets can be sometimes easier than other times. And the standard of the person at the end of those tickets is very, very variable, I think, really, depending on experience and everything else. So, and I think we try and find somebody who's got a genuine industry interest. So one of the questions we ask, are you a member of the Arb Association? It's the industry body. If somebody's a member of the Arb Association, or they know what the Arb Association is, it's great. But if they've got that interest, whether it's horticultural background or some kind of arboricultural background, but I want to learn a little bit about, yes, why we're pruning that branch off on that tree there and how it's going to go, just a bit more technical background is ideal, but not for everybody. We've been involved with the apprenticeship scheme and kind of working on the new Trailblazer apprenticeship scheme for a long time with my predecessor before me. And the idea when we kind of worked with Ros and everybody involved in getting the Arb apprenticeship thing, we tried to make it a little bit more of a higher level. It's still a level 2 apprenticeship, but we tried to kind of give it a bit more of a technical detail in there. Looking back, I think we made the right decision, because we're trying to attract somebody with a bit more interest in the industry rather than going out and doing that. What we didn't do a good job at, myself included, is recruiting that apprentice that's not going to achieve that level. So we've got some young people who come on the apprenticeship level. Apprenticeship did a couple of months, and actually it was too much for them to do. So they left. They're now back at the company. They're working for us. We've got an in-house small apprenticeship scheme and a training program for them. But I think the apprenticeship's a great thing, that we're looking to put the level 4 apprenticeship scheme into place and level 6 for arboriculture, which I think is a good thing for that next level up for consultancy side of things. But yeah, anybody, I mean, it's great if they turn up on time and they turn up every day and you can trust them. And I think if you've got that, you've got the makings of somebody who you can, and they're willing to train and willing to learn. You've got the makings of somebody who you can train into a good arborist. But it is an investment for them, and it's an investment for us as companies.
That's very good. Kirsty, you had a comment there.
Yeah, just kind of on the back of what Richard was saying about the apprenticeship, I think it's also important for people going into the industry, whether they are signing up for an apprenticeship or going out and buying their own qualifications, that they're sure that that's what they want to do. You know, to sign up for the apprenticeship now, it is a harder course than it's ever been, which was the idea, as Richard said, to get people that want that higher level of qualification and knowledge. Equally, I think often people can go into it not realising kind of the level of work there is involved in it. And on the flip side, if you go and buy qualifications and you're not 100% sure you're joining the right industry, that again is you know, money that probably could have been spent on an industry that you wanted to join. So it's just, you know, making sure that they're the right choices for you as a person.
That's really interesting. That's good. You got any comments on that point, Nick? Or?
No, I think, yeah, you know, I think there needs to be a sort of a grassroots entry level, like Richard was saying, and then you've got the more technical advanced apprenticeships. You know, we do get asked quite often, what do I need? What tickets do I need? And I think we covered that earlier to get in and get a foot in the door. So, you know, again, you know, the chainsaw tickets, the ground maintenance and cross-cutting, your wood chipper tickets, manual handling. I do suggest that they try and seek out someone who could do an industry-specific first aid course, because they're not all the same. And obviously, a chainsaw wound is very different to a kitchen knife cut. And then the driver tickets, the driver trailer tickets are much needed now with the trailer requirements on the license. So, you know, that sort of gets you a foot in the door. It makes you get considered. I mean, it's lovely to see companies like Steve willing to take somebody without those or with some of those. But, you know, that's the entry level for most companies we deal with, is that's what they're looking for. And then it's going along and doing a couple of weekend works or a week's trial to try and see if your face fits, you know, with that company. And it's just getting yourself out there and getting a foot in the door, if you're not going to work for a bigger company like Richard's.
Very good. Excellent. Some good stuff come out of that. That's good. I'll move on to the next point. We've touched on freelancers in previous episodes briefly. I know there's some freelancers out there who have felt a little bit left out in the cold maybe over this whole COVID-19 thing. What would you say, Richard, to someone who's employed at the moment but is considering going freelance? What are your comments on that as an employer?
I think as the industry, I mean, at the moment, everybody I've spoken to, colleagues, people I know, we're busy at the moment. We're in a little false bubble, I think. And with all the uncertainties of what's going on, what we were talking about before we kind of on this, and I spoke to Nick about, was the amount of freelance jobs that are coming up now attached. I'm thinking the opposite. People are probably looking for a bit of security, a bit of somewhere where they know they're going to get paid a certain amount for a certain week. They're going to be guaranteed work. I think from my point of view and Bartlett's point of view is we don't use freelancers on very, very rare occasions, but not very often we get subbies in, as we call them in the industry. I think there is opportunities out there. We've got somebody leaving this week who's going to go set up on their own just by kind of advice and things. He's a good guy. He's worked for us well. We've had a good relationship. We're leaving on good terms. But he wants to go try on his own. And we found that in the past, people go out and try it. And sometimes they come back, most of the times, because they've had a good experience, and it's good to get them back. They've had a bit of life experience. But I think at the moment, it's a big risk to go out and start yourself up a little business. It might be okay for the next couple of weeks. You're going to be busy, but when times get tough, which I'm pretty sure they are going to get tough at some point in the turn of the year, I think you might find that things are not quite as jolly as they are at the moment.
That's interesting. John, Kirsty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, completely in agreement with Richard. I think people who are considering that, two things really: to make sure you've got a safety net. It's a big step to go from having your monthly salary to suddenly being responsible for generating all your own income and everything that goes with that. So being responsible for the cost of your training, the cost of your insurance, the cost of your loader inspections. But also, if you're currently employed, don't burn your bridges with the company that you're with. I think always try and leave on good terms. Most people, no one wants to see staff leave, particularly experienced people, but I think most companies would wish that person well, and hope they succeed. And it needs to be a two-way thing. Don't leave on bad terms, because it may be that either you'll be looking for work from that company, or that you might want to return. It's the tree world is a small world, and to succeed as a freelancer, you need to build up a really good reputation with all those companies out there.
That's really interesting. Steve, do you take on freelancers, use freelancers at all?
Very few, very rarely. We like to keep everybody in-house. As we mentioned before, we've had bad experiences with them. So yeah, we just prefer to keep it in-house, really. Yeah.
Okay. Go on, Nick, you got a point there?
Yeah, I was going to say there is a need in the industry for freelancers. We get companies who've lost staff and maybe need some cover for a couple of weeks, while they're trying to find another full-time member of staff. What is worrying me at the moment is, with the uncertainty of the economy, is we're seeing a lot of the smaller businesses are wanting to take on self-employed staff. They are going down the self-employed staff route rather than in full-time employment. And as Richard said, I think a lot of staff are looking for the security of full-time employment. So there's a disparity there, which concerns me, that 90% of the new jobs coming in at the moment seem to be all saying we're looking for self-employed staff. And I'm not sure if the employer or the employee understand the ramifications of that, or the legal ramifications and potential financial ramifications of that. And I wonder if Andrea could maybe comment on that for us.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So being self-employed, I mean, there are things like IR35, which is coming down the track. It was postponed from this year to next year. And really, that is a test that HMRC are putting in place to determine if somebody really is self-employed, or actually if they are employed by a company but under the radar to avoid paying taxes. So if you are self-employed contractor, but all of your work is with one main company, the chances are you're actually going to be deemed as employed, and then there's a tax bill coming down the track to you. So I think it's not as clear cut as it used to be about whether you're self-employed or actually whether you are employed. So that is something really that people need to be quite mindful of.
That's really good. That's very good advice. I'm sure there are a lot will find the useful out there. That's excellent. Richard, you got another comment on that?
Yeah, I think as well, if anybody is thinking about going down that self-employed route, it's the business planning side of things that somebody's not maybe been used to in the past. It's planning for the future. It's not just, it's nice to have something to go back to, but you've got to look at, you might be earning an extra couple £100 a week. You might have some more money in your pocket, but it's planning for that replacement of your truck, replacement of your chipper. The business aspect of things is not something that we've all been had time to sit down and learn and be taught and understand. The longer term planning is something that's got to be at the back of your mind. We're not all going to be able to climb trees forever. So it's having a kind of an exit strategy from that at some point in the future, where you're going to go, what you want to end up in 6 months, 12 months, 5 years down the line. So
that's good. Go on, Nick.
Yeah, I think even for the smaller, the guys going to set up their own small businesses, that business planning is really essential, because we all are, to be setting out on your own, you've got to be to a certain extent optimistic. But to put a bit of a downer on it, when you actually add up the guys you've got working for you going off on holiday, then you're not going to be working effectively that week. Bad weather, breakdowns and equipment, stuff like that. You could end up actually working maybe only sort of like 35 to 40 weeks a year. And when you work out your day rate on that, and then break down all of your overheads, all of your costs, your insurance, your tipping fees, your licenses, your depreciation on capital equipment, you suddenly are left holding a lot smaller bundle of cash than you thought you were going to.
Very interesting. It's good. Go on, Richard.
One last thing on that, and I think a lot of that is it's a race to the bottom for those smaller companies. It's a competition for low bid work. We don't charge enough as an industry. We produce, which will probably lead on to a question later on. We need to be charging enough money to pay people the right amount of money when they're employed for our buyers. So it's going to be a quick race to the bottom if everybody's competing for that low bid work. time and time again. So that planning, knowing what you need to get to cover your costs, to put something away for the future, is so important.
That's really good. That does tie us into the next question. It also links in with a question that's come in from Jake Loader. Thanks, Jake, if you're still watching. Around wages, is something we also hear quite a bit, is that some feel wages don't align with the skills that are required in the industry, and the risk taken when you sort of align perhaps some of the wages with someone like a plumber, for instance. What are your thoughts on that? What do you say about that one, Kirsty?
Just to touch on what Richard said, I think across the board, rates need to be higher. I think the industry as a whole needs to raise its profile as a professional industry, and clients, whether domestic or commercial, need to understand the skills and the risks and the training and that's involved in that industry. I think if there are a lot of companies out there that will underbid, other companies, and I think for contracts, say for councils, utilities, there should be the lowest rate you can go to, and then you bid from that rate up. I think wages need to increase across the board, but a lot of the larger contracts, they don't pay the rates in order to do that. So I think raising the profile and making everyone understand that it is a professional industry, with everyone concerned, so all companies working together, the Arb Association helping with that. Obviously there's competition amongst companies to get contracts, but you don't have to undercut to the point where you can't viably run that contract.
That's interesting. You're nodding there, Richard. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. We try, and as a company, we try and keep away from council contracts because the schedule of rates doesn't really work for our business model. It's really difficult for us to be competitive at that point. I think our wage bill as a percentage of turnovers has gone up drastically in the past couple of years. We've brought people online. I've got some production employees getting paid more than managers. So I think we're paying a fair wage for doing things. It's the feeling the value. It's not everything, but it's certainly a massive attraction for keeping people and attracting people to come and work for us. So and incentives, the training thing. So the pay and the investment in that person is so important, and we have to pass that cost on to our clients. Unfortunately, it's things. So at the moment, it's nice. We've got some costs coming down at the moment. Petrol, fuel costs are coming down, which is great. But it's still costing us a lot more money to actually go out and do the proper job, the professional job that we're aiming to, we're striving to get to. And I think as long as we're in that cash society, as long as that cash seems to be king with a lot of the smaller kind of jobs that we come across, we often get asked, we're second price, maybe first to price a job, they're getting two prices. Somebody's coming in working for cash. And I think as we move away from that, then we're going to be able to, as an industry, be a lot more professional and be able to pay people more money for it. So it's a difficult one.
What are your thoughts on that one, Steve?
Absolutely agree. We've got some fabulous staff, and compared to some colleagues in other industries, they're underpaid in comparison. What the answer is, I don't know myself. We market ourselves as sort of leaders, high-end tree work. We don't undertake any council contracts. We don't undertake any utility works. So we are looking for high-end customers. We try and sell ourselves to commercial clients that will provide a speedy service. So we'll be there the next day, but we charge a premium for that. So they know that if they need us, we'll be there. So we are able to charge a premium to our clients, but what comes with that is obviously all of the costs that are associated with having to juggle staff around. So it's really is challenging to have enough money to pay what you'd like to pay, and it's an industry issue that I struggle with myself, to be honest. We all like to see better pay. So yeah, hearing what these people have had to say is brilliant.
That's really good. Go on, Nick, have you got any thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, a few. I think part of the problem within the industry is, as I said earlier, is the low entry level to it. You've got the colleges churning the kids out. They can't find jobs with the companies because they haven't got the experience. So the finance, as Richard said, is easily available. They go out, they buy a cheap chipper, they buy a cheap truck, they buy a couple of chainsaws, and off they go. And that's just feeding more and more low entry level small businesses into the industry. They haven't got the business acumen or understanding how to run it. So very quickly they go bust. And then the process starts again, because 2-3 years later, the colleges are churning more students out. So every year you've got this repetition of the same event going on. So the competition on the low end of the industry is massive. And people are buying the work, literally buying the work. They're not even covering their overheads on a day rate. And that's sort of soul destroying. So I think that somebody needs to get a grip on the sort of the standards for the industry. We need an authority or a legislator to ensure that those are adhered to, and that the industry is policed and promoted correctly. The association, the Arb Association's out there, it's a membership association. They don't want to police or sack or fine their members. They need the membership fees to keep the association going, and they do a fantastic job. But it's not policing or promoting the industry that we need really as an industry to push wages up, to push training standards up, to push tree surgery standards up. You drive around any town and you see appalling work done, and it's just because it's cheap cash, it's quick and easy cash. And the tree work standards are very poor, and customers, the public see it and they don't understand what is good and bad tree surgery. I took the national park in the Peak Park to task a few years ago about some tree work that was done on a main road outside Bakewell, and it was appalling work. And I said, the visitors who get to the park here are seeing that and thinking that's good tree surgery. And that sort of stuff needs to be axed. It needs to be, to term a phrase, but it needs to be changed, because there are really good arborists within our industry, really good people who are passionate and care about it, and that's what the industry should all be about. And it will mean the companies that are left can pay good salaries. The professionalism of the industry will go up. That's my thoughts anyway.
That's good. It sounds like you've got a job on your plate, Nick, to sort all that out. That's good. That's some very good thoughts. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who will be nodding and agreeing with what you're saying. That's really good. So we haven't got too much time left. Another point, I'm going to push this in your direction, actually, Andrea, about culture. We spend most of our lives at work, don't we? A lot of us do anyway. So what makes a good business culture? Tell us about that from your experience.
Okay. I think culture will be different by company, but really it starts with the leadership team. So the leadership team will be driving the culture of the organisation, and they have to role model the culture of the organisation. I think in order to understand what the culture is, you need to have a clearly defined mission statement. So what is your company about? What are your objectives? What do you stand for as an organisation? What are the values that are intrinsic to the company? And then making sure that everybody understands what they are and that you hold people accountable to them, and that you call out any bad behaviour. So if people are not in line with the culture, then that's called out. But actually those that are working in line with the culture, that's also discussed with them too. So I don't think I can say to you, this is the best culture. The culture starts with the leadership team and really is defined then through the values and the behaviours of that leadership team, and make sure it's understood within the company by everybody within the company. That's
really good. Go on, Richard.
Yeah, I hit the nail on the head. I think it starts from the leaders. I think we kind of looking at managers now. We're becoming more leaders than managers. I think we've got to lead by example, letting things go, just being blatantly open, honest, letting everybody have their say about what's going on in the industry. But it stops with the managers, whatever level that is, whether it's your crew leader, whether it's your office leader, or whether it's myself at the top, or everybody. It starts with everybody else, and it can break down. I think Kirsty touched on it earlier on. People don't leave companies, they leave managers, really. And I think if you've got a bad manager, then you're going to lose people. So again, it's my job to make sure we're managing things in the right way. We're doing things exactly how we want to. And and it's listening to them. Let them lead the culture of the business. Let them lead the culture of the company. Let them make that decision where we're going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years when we're maybe not in it anymore. I think it's just being quiet, listening it, and then making sure that we're sticking with that and not letting anything go by. So important.
That's brilliant. Very, very good. Go on, Steve. You got some comments on that?
Yeah, absolutely. We undertook a staff survey a couple of years ago. It was really interesting to see that the staff, they echoed what we strive for, and that's good quality tree work. They love the fact that we do a wide range of Arb operations. You know, we're avoiding the low level work. It's all high end, high quality, great customer service. It's the ethos that the company have. That's driven by our managing director. He absolutely wants high quality, great work, and it just shines through. So yeah, having a strong leadership who are on point and quite clear on what they're expecting, and it comes back to communication, regular toolbox talks, explaining, as I said before, from recruitment stage, explaining what the company is about, reiterating it, going out on site audits, just all the way through is just hammering home how important it is, the business model that you're working to. Not everybody will have the same values as us. Every business is different, but for us, we want to see our staff working to the highest possible standards, and they all thrive on it. They love it. They get very passionate when they see other companies locally not delivering to the same standards, particularly if there are approved contractors and they're not working to the standard. They get very passionate, very vocal about it. So yeah, it's great to see. It's really rewarding that message that we're getting across to them is being delivered on the coalface, if you like.
It's down to leadership again, isn't it? Absolutely. Shout out to Paul Meekins. Done a great job. That's excellent. Kirsty, what are your thoughts on that one?
Oh, just echoing everyone else's, really. Leading by example from the top, keeping communication channels open, and also I think raising issues with people if they're not performing. I think nothing worse than in a team if you ignore issues. That actually makes that whole situation worse. The people that are performing well then feel more underappreciated, just the fact that you're not tackling kind of issues with people. So I think having honest staff that will come to you and just communication all the time, really.
Very good. Got any comments there, Nick?
I think we covered it earlier about teaching the leaders to lead properly, to manage the staff properly, to recognise staff. When staff are even just being reliable and doing their jobs, just because they're ticking along doesn't mean you don't have to recognise and reward that work. They're doing the job 9 to 5, and we sort of get distracted by the naughty staff, and we're not paying enough attention to the ones that are there 9 to 5 every day doing the job properly. So it's rewarding the reliability, the effort, the initiative of the staff that are helping us run our businesses effectively, and then caring for them, and as Andrew said, really good communication up and down the management chain from the staff, being able to feel they're not going to get into trouble for talking to the boss about, be that their team leader or the manager, about an idea they've got to make the company better, and feed things up the chain in that direction as well. Quite often people are scared to say anything, for fear of reprisals, and that's just not a good sort of working environment.
I see. Go on, Steve. You had a further comment there.
I was going to say, forgotten what I was going to say. Apologies.
That's all right. That's okay. It's fine. No worries. I'm sure it will come back to you in a minute. So that's good. We've just come in over our hour. So just our sort of final point then. I was going to put a question to you about indispensable employees. If I'm an employee out there, I'm working for a business, I want to climb the ladder within that business. I want to earn better. What do I need to do? What makes me indispensable? What are you looking for in your people, Richard?
I think for first one's about attitude. I think it's one of the most important things. If you've got somebody with a positive attitude, comes in, reliable, honest, looking to better themselves, somebody who's willing to take advice, somebody who's coachable, somebody who's wanting to improve, get to a level, knows where they want to be, would I was happy to take direction. I think that's one of the most important things. It's just having that reliability, people to turn up, communicate. Communicative is great. The tickets are great, and if you come with them, fantastic. But if you've got somebody who you've got that feeling that they're going to actually be a good fit into your team and you can trust them, we're willing to invest a lot of time and effort and training them to be the best arborists that they can be. And whether they stay with us for a long time or stay with us for a couple of years, then we're willing to make that investment. So I think a lot of it's about attitude as much as aptitude.
Excellent. Go, Steve.
I think trust, as Richard said, is key. I think sometimes we forget how dangerous our industry is. Every time we're going under that tree or climbing the tree, we're putting our lives into the hands of our colleagues. So if you've got a member of staff who isn't trustworthy, then that's going to affect the team dynamics. So really, anybody who wants to know, how to be a good employee, it's build up trust with your colleagues, understand what's required of you, attitude, as Richard said, paying attention. Get off your phone. I'm sure we've all seen it. Everybody's on the phone all the time. It feels like, the youngsters, they want to be on the phones, they're on FaceTime, they're Snapchatting, they're messing around. Stamping that out is a real challenge for all the toolbox talks, all the site audits, all the team leader telling them. You still find the odd one on their phones. So it's a real challenge. And so getting across to the younger ones particularly, that paying attention, being on site, building that trust with your colleagues, they need to know that you've got their back is really, really key.
That's good. Kirsty, what are your thoughts?
Kind of agree with Richard and Steve on all those points. I think people that want to be good at their job, who are interested in trees, goes a massive long way. Again, a good attitude. You can teach a lot of things. You can teach people how to prune trees. You can teach them how to climb. Often you can't teach a good attitude. So coming along with that, being, as I say, willing to learn and fit in within the teams and strive to be the best at the job that you can be more than anything.
That's really good. Andrea?
I think all of that, and just, I guess, don't come with problems, but come with problems and have thought about what the solutions might be or some of the possible solutions as well. Don't just dump a problem at me and run away. So think about it and maybe think about the solutions, but everything else I agree with.
That's good. Excellent. How about you, Nick? What's your experience on that? Thoughts?
Yeah, I think from my experience from contracting myself and from talking to employers, I think it's somebody, your ideal employee would be someone who treats the business like it was their own business. They treat the customers with care and respect, their colleagues with care and respect, the equipment. They put in the effort and the feedback to make the business, to take the business forwards. They're not just clocking in, clocking out, taking the money.
Brilliant. Very good. Well, we've got over our hour, so thank you very much to everyone. Thank you to the panel. That's been a fantastic conversation. We hope everyone's enjoyed it. Thank you very much to all our viewers for watching. We appreciate your time. Please keep tuned for when the next Arb Culture session is going to be. We've got some more great stuff coming up. But if there's any particular comments you want to hear about, any conversations you want to be involved in, then please reach out to us, get in touch, and we'll make sure that comes up in one of our future conversations. So thank you again very much to everyone. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again to our panel and our viewers. That brings us to the end of episode 3, but make sure you're back for episode 4. Stay tuned for the date and time. See you again very soon.